Hello, my name is Allison Carmen, and welcome to my podcast, 10 Minutes to Less Suffering. And the name of today's podcast, when you try to control something, it often controls you. And this idea came from a video I watched of Matt Kahn named Letting Go of Control. And what Matt says is, without believing you're controlling something, you can't be controlled by the patterns of others. And choices are not guaranteeing outcomes. Choices are saying, based on what's happening, here's the decision I make that correlates with my highest wisdom. And what was so interesting about what Matt said is that we all talk about, can I control this? Can I let go of control? But I don't know about you, I never spent much time thinking about the thing that was controlling me. So in a way, I was letting go of half of my suffering. A good example is when I was at the hospital for my dad, and I was sitting there when it was about 8 p.m. and it was almost time for my mom and I to leave, and my parents were arguing. My dad's roommate was fighting with his soon-to-be ex-wife, and the nurse wouldn't come in to check my father's IV drip after I asked her to come a couple of times. And as I was sitting there, I realized that I could not control anything. I couldn't control my parents fighting. I surely couldn't control my father's roommate. And I couldn't make the nurse come quicker than she was going to come. It wasn't an emergency. So as I realized I didn't have control, I still felt a heaviness on me. But the minute I realized I have no control, and because I have no control, the situation has no control over me, I went right back to a state of peace. I was free. Did I go call the nurse again? Yes, because that was my wisdom, saying that the best decision for me is to try again to get the nurse to come before I leave to make sure his IV is set up. But by realizing that what I can't control does not control me, lifted the burden fully. Another example, and I know I've talked about this before, when I have a problem at work. Let's say we're having a business problem or a money problem or a cash flow problem. When I realize I've done the best I can do, I can detach and say, well, I can't control this. But often the problem would stay on me, a little like a black cloud. But the minute I was able to look at control on both sides, I cannot control the cash flow. I've done my best. That's for other people in the business to take care of, whether or not we have more patience and things like that. And then when I realized that the business doesn't control me, that was the completion of my freedom. And all I can continue to do is make decisions that correlate with my highest wisdom. And I think what happens to most of us is we're aware we can't control certain things. So there's a partial letting go. But to be fully complete, to be fully free, we have to realize that these things don't control us either. And that's when we experience a really deep level of freedom. It's a total detachment. It's not that we're not going to have to make decisions. It's not that we're not going to have preferences. It's just you find your right place and the real role of the things in your life. And it gives you a chance to find a new perspective in your freedom, a new relationship with uncertainty, a new relationship with your problems, and a new relationship with the people in your life. So how do we do this? It starts with you being aware, again, of what your problems are today. Is it a situation in a relationship? Is it a situation at work with your children? And ask yourself, can I control this? Can you control the problem you have at work? Usually a problem you have at work is involved with a lot of other people, the markets, the business. If you have a problem in a relationship, that person has their own ideas, their own perspectives. If it's something with your child also is an individual dealing with people, whether they're at school or it's their relationships, whatever it is, identify the thing that's making you feel stuck and stressed and burdened. And then ask yourself, can I control this? Now remember, control is different than a decision. A decision is not a guarantee of an outcome. And usually we forget that. We think that, I'm going to control this by choosing to make this decision at work. I'm going to control this by telling my partner how much I care about them. Whatever you decide, It is an expression of who you are. It is a moving forward, but there's no guarantee how that will play out. And yes, within uncertainty are beautiful possibilities, and life does have probabilities, but it does not have certainties. And control is about certainty, and that's why it chokes us and it makes us feel stuck, because we are believing things are going to be a certain way based on our decision or need to be a certain way. But the minute we loosen that and realize that we don't have total control, it doesn't mean we don't have the ability to make beautiful decisions and create beautiful things in our lives. But if you believe this situation has to work out this way, then that problem controls you. You will be stuck, you will be stressed, you will have anxiety because something outside of you, the outcome of that will determine your mood, will determine everything that happens during the day, and it will eventually determine the quality of your life, how you create, how you expand, and how you live. Even in a relationship, if we need someone to act a certain way, be a certain way, we're going to suffer. We have to allow people to be who they are and see if we can be okay with that. So yes, we could act in a certain way, we can act in a loving way, we can express ourselves, all heart-based, based on our highest wisdom, based on a full expression of who we are. But that's not control, and that's not a guarantee. That is us expanding and creating and living our best life. And then we have to allow the other person to come forward and be who they are, even if it hurts and even if it doesn't work out the way our heart desired. There's no control. And when we allow that, we end up in a relationship in pure freedom, more likely to work out, or we are more likely to find the person that we are meant or choose to be with. That's in our highest good. Sometimes we try to control things because we think it's what we want, but it might not be for our highest good. And it might not be what the other person wants. And even situations with our children, which I find to be the most challenging because we love our children more than ourselves, and yet we can't control them. We can't control their life's path. But even then, we have to take a step back, make the best decisions to help them. But if we try to control it, it will control us. And sometimes we might choose that. We might choose to not step away from every situation in our lives and not experience that total freedom. And that's okay. And we all know it could be very challenging to let go of certain things in our lives and let them just be, because we want so bad for certain people to be well, or we want relationships so bad, or we want a relationship to work out or a business to work out. You get to choose. The only reason I'm bringing this up today is that there are many things in your life that you can give up this element of control, which will help give you less stress, less suffering, because the minute you do that, the thing outside of you won't control you, the person, the situation, so you will have less stress and more freedom. And maybe as you experience it in simpler, easier parts of your life, you'll be able to let go more and more and have a life that represents more your authenticity. Remember too, when we're trying to control, the thing outside of us becomes more important than who we truly are. And it becomes more important than being kind and loving to ourselves. We put the thing outside of us before us because we're not allowing ourselves to dance in our authenticity and our freedom and our heart and what's true for us and our full creation, which only happens when we're willing to let go in the playing field of uncertainty where unlimited possibilities exist, where your dreams exist, where that relationship exists, everything you desire exists. It just doesn't exist in the land of certainty and control. So I hope you think about this. You think about your problems. You think about what you really can't control, and that liberation when you know you can't control it, then the thing outside of you doesn't control you, that you make your decisions based on your highest wisdom, and then you live in maybe and you allow things to unfold. And even if it doesn't go your way, you know that you have more possibilities and you live in that expansive, creative place every day. Because for all you know, maybe the best is yet to come. Thank you for listening to this podcast today. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you could email me at allison@allisoncarmen.com. If you'd like to read my books, The Gift of Maybe, A Year Without Men, Maybe Everything's Okay, A Parent's Guide to Less Stress and Worry, You can find them on Amazon and all audio platforms. And if you'd like to buy my maybe cards or my digital journal, you could find them on Amazon, Etsy, and my Stan store. And most of all, if you like this podcast, I hope you subscribe and leave a comment.